All right, guys, welcome back to episode 2 of Broadway Blueshirts Buzz. I'm Jennifer Streeter with Breakaway on SI, as always, joined by my lovely co-host Jake Mozarsky with the sporting news. It has been 2 weeks since we have last been able to hop on and record on the pod, and those 2 weeks have been an eventful one. We've seen plenty of losses, unfortunately, but also plenty of milestones for our New York Rangers along the way. So Jake and I are excited to get into it. But first, Jake. How are you? Obviously, tell the listeners you just came back from an exciting in-person coverage for the Florida Gators. So let's hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for listening. Welcome back to episode two. It was one of the coolest college football environments I've been in, and I'm huge on college football. That's probably my biggest sport outside of hockey. And it was unfortunate that it was Billy Napier's last game with the Florida Gators, but I got to talk to a bunch of fans, go to his press conference, and I want to preface how good of a person he is. College football and all the sports we know are results driven. But it was a lot of fun being in that environment. And I even watched the Rangers beat the Canadians in the press box at the end. The best place I've watched a Ranger game on. So it's been good. It's been good. And the Rangers have broken a record since we were last on. So I'm really excited to be back for episode two.
Yeah, I just got back myself from Seattle. I was over there covering the Seattle versus Edmonton game from press row. So definitely agree that there's no better place to watch a hockey game or see the best view of the rink from up there. So I'm excited to get into everything. I guess let's go ahead and start with JT Miller's return to the Vancouver Canucks. First time back at Rogers Arena since being named captain for the New York Rangers, and just first time being back overall since the trade that took place last year in January. Jake, what did you think about what JT brought to the ice? And, I can read a little bit from my story that I wrote about it this morning, but why don't you start us off?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that I wanted to see from that game, and it's a lot of what Rangers media has said. So I'm shouting out my boy Johnny Lazarus, Jay Lazzy. This one's for you. Just pretty much like yesterday was a game that carried a lot of emotion, right? JT Miller got traded to the Vancouver Canucks in around 2019, 2020. And yeah, he had spent a lot of time there, and he was arguably the franchise player. And the way it ended in Vancouver was sort of an interesting one, right? He forced, like, I'm not going to use the words he forced his way there, but that's pretty much what he did. The Rangers were his destination, and he came back to the team where he got drafted. And Johnny Lazarus put it best on Twitter yesterday, pretty much saying the Rangers, they were coming off a game on Sunday night where the Calgary Flames absolutely outplayed them. And the game before that, the San Jose Sharks picked up their first win. And he's just like, if they can't come spirited for their captain, then you're going to have doubts. And what did the Rangers do? They showed emotion. It looked like they cared, and it went until after the final buzzer when, what's his name? The guy on the Canucks whose name I'm blanking out on for some reason, hit Vladislav Gavrikov. Jonathan Quick goes over and punches him. And
Oh, that was I have that right here. That was Kiefer, right? Kiefer Sherwood?
yes, it was Keith. Yes, exactly. So yeah, it was Kiefer Sherwin and Sherwood. Sorry, I'm all over the place. It's late, guys. I'm sick. But the biggest thing, and Jenny knows this about me, and it's probably because I'm a Rangers fan too, not only someone that covers this team. You just want the guys to care because it looked like at the end of Gerard Gallant's era, they didn't really care, and at the end of Peter Laviolette last year, when the team pretty much quit, they didn't care. And 10 games in, your now captain is going back to a place and a game that you know means a lot to him. I'm glad they cared and I'm glad they won. In terms of JT Miller, I don't know if he's playing at full health, but he's JT Miller, so he's obviously going to play. He got 2 shots on goal. That's more than most of the team ice time normal. Won the most faceoffs on the night. I mean, he won 11 faceoffs. The second highest was 4 with the Rangers. I mean, with Noah Laba. And so, no, I thought overall he looked good, and I thought overall the team looked pretty decent too.
Yeah, I do want to get into what he said to the media post game. I have the quote right here. He said, I had a lot of nerves. I just tried to move my feet and stay focused. I really liked the way our line played in the first 2 periods. I thought we had a cycle game, had an honest game. It's an emotional game for sure. It actually went better than I thought. I actually thought it was going to be a little worse, but made it through. And then he said, it's just surreal. You don't realize how lucky you are. Just really happy that my kids got to be here today and my wife. It means a ton to me just feel like super lucky to have that support in a hockey crazy city. It was a really special chapter of our lives. So, I just think there's been so much like speculation about the trade, and especially with his feud with PD, that it's kind of nice to see him kind of get that standing ovation and to see some recognitions that while things may have ended on rocky terms, that it was still a special chapter of his life. So I'm kind of glad to see that get acknowledged.
Oh, I'm so glad. And also, you saw the standing ovation if you watched the game and how much that city cared for him and he cared for that city. I mean, when he was on the Canucks, they were the number one seed in the Western Conference. He was a premium center in the NHL and still is a premium center in the NHL, by the way. But he really reached his prime in Vancouver. And it's great to see the city not boo him. Like you said, you see a lot of that in all of sports. It could get messy, especially with the way the reported breakup went. And I'm not going to say JT Miller was really open about it, but it was noticeable there was a problem. And Rangers fans are happy to have him back. One, and it's really nice too because to get these games out of the way earlier in the season, some of them that might carry a lot of emotion when really the Rangers needed to get back on track. That JT Miller one is one of them. We have Keandre Miller coming back to the Madison Square Garden the next Rangers home game. And I like when they have those tribute games really, really early in the season. I mean, I'm blanking out on when Chris Kreider comes back, but one of us is going to be there, and tears are going to be fed. But yeah. Oh, and Jacob Trouba, he hasn't come back to Madison Square Garden too. But no, seriously, the best is that they got 2 points, and like you said and put in your story, everything was really good to hear.
Yeah, I do want to say though, Jake, while we're on this heartwarming topic of JT Miller, I'm not happy. I'm
Yeah.
just overall, I'm not happy with how the Rangers have been playing, covering it from a media perspective as an unbiased reporter, it doesn't really matter. I'm just reporting. But as a fan standing here recording in my Rangers jersey, I'm really not happy with how they've been playing the games that they've been losing at such a consistent rate. And then, the fact that they almost broke the record for NHL history of longest drought to start a season without a goal being scored at home. I mean, these are not good indicators for the rest of the year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, look, I could talk about all the heartwarming stuff that we've seen this season. The Rangers still haven't won at home. They almost set an NHL record. The last time they won a home game was the season finale last year. Their last home goal was scored by Mika Zibanejad, assisted by Chris Kreider, who's no longer on the team. Or not last home goal, last goal in a win. Wow. No, they're not playing well. And I thought they played well last night, but the bottom line is the Canucks are not one of those top teams. And the Calgary Flames and San Jose Sharks both had major amounts of times in those two games. We're talking about Sunday night in Calgary and the Thursday night before that in New York, where they were outplaying New York. And this is a Rangers team that I don't want to say came into the season with Stanley Cup aspirations, but rather playoff aspirations. Let's go with that. And they got outplayed. And there's
And
not.
if I'm not to interrupt you, but correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Sullivan said coming into the season, new head coach Mike Sullivan, of course, that just missing the postseason last year, that was completely unacceptable, and that
Mhm.
that was 100% their goal and what they want to happen this year. So just you're 100% right on that. But I think like it's just so hard that going into the year, it was the expectation was that they had to make the postseason. And this year they're just not playing like that at all. And to your point about how it's good they got a win over Vancouver, yeah, the 2-0 win was great. The shutout for Jonathan Quick, I believe that was his number 64th.
Yep, 64.
Um 64th shutout of his career puts him at a tie with Henrik for I want to say it was like ooh.
I think it's what is it? Most.
Puts him at a tie with Henrik for 17th all time in the NHL. I mean, those are great stats, but let's also remember that the Canucks were without Captain Quinn Hughes as well. We have Quinn out with an injury as well. So I just think that not to sound too negative on this podcast recording, but yeah, I'm negative right now,
Yeah,
Jake.
no, you sound like me, and that's good. Like the Rangers have not been playing well, and I know I started this like with that. You bring up the pressure point, right? I mean, the story that came out by The Athletic after the end of last year by Peter Ball, one of the best I've ever written. It sort of described how the Rangers collapses. Ever read, not ever written. Jesus. The biggest quote that stood out to me was nobody feels safe here. And nobody felt safe with the Rangers going back to when Chris Drury sent the memo in November after they lost on the Canada road trip. And there was a culture of, I don't want to call it a hostile culture because it wasn't, but you felt like your job was on the line every day and that pressure added up. And going into this season, you wanted them to remember last year because there's no hockey player that can have a season the Rangers had last year and just forget about it. But it's a clean slate and you use it as fuel. And it sort of seems like they were the same lifeless group for a lot of this year so far. I mean, in all of their losses, they sort of just looked like the biggest problem with the Rangers last year. They weren't moving the puck fast enough. They were out of position. They weren't that skilled in the top six. I know Vincent Trocheck getting hurt is not helpful. The past few games, the bottom six hasn't had as much energy, but they've been fine. No, the Rangers are absolutely not playing well, and it's really disappointing. It's not more disappointing than last year just because the bar is lower, but the bar will never be as high as it was at this point last season.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Jake, I know this was something you and I were just talking about before we hit record, but I do want to shout out our friend and reporter Hannah Ang for her story that is going to help introduce this point. I am just really questioning why, with how the Rangers are playing, why Gabe Perreault is just being wasted away in the Hartford Wolfpack. I mean, sure, that's great for his development. I've been keeping up with him while he's been there and he's recording points, recording stats, which we knew he would. But it really begs the question with all these losses piling up for the Rangers, why changes haven't been made and why Gabe is still down there.
Exactly. It's a very interesting one. And while I could say I understand it because I know how Mike Sullivan goes about his business and he's been like that since his time with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Rangers are a team that not necessarily lacks skill, but if you take out the Artemi Panarin, the Mika Zibanejads, the Alexi Lafrenières, or not even take them out, but they just have a bad game, the Rangers do not get production from their middle six, and it's frustrating for fans, reporters, all that. And Gabe Perreault is a guy that set almost every Boston College record. He's going to Hartford and he's putting up points. And there's no argument. I mean, I might even edit in my rant from the spring when talking about him when Peter Laviolette scratched him. There, you can't argue that this team isn't more skilled with him not on the ice. I mean, the guy
No,
just,
completely agree. And another point that you can add is he's already seen league play. Like
yeah,
it's not like you and I are like sitting here as podcasters debating for him, like, oh, he needs to have his debut. Like it's time he's ready. It's already ha done that. Like been
exactly.
there, done that. He's already played on league ice.
And then what's the point of burning a year of his entry level contract last season if you're not going to have him in the NHL by the middle of next season? I mean, we should have him by December, but he's only going to have 1 year left after this. And if he's rotting away in Hartford for a team that you're not talking about a lot of long-term pieces on the Rangers right now. You don't know what the future is with Artemi Panarin. You don't know Mika Zibanejad. Alexi Lafreniere is pretty much the one you know contractually, but they still might trade him. And so you're talking about Adam Fox and Shesterkin as the two untouchables. Just like, let's see what we have with our young guys. Let's see what we have with Gabe Perreault, Brennan Othman, because if Gabe Perreault turns out to be a star like he's shown in college, and we've seen people come from the college level and become stars immediately, right? So just get him on the ice because the Rangers need skill, especially at home.
I do want to kind of reintroduce Keeping Up with the Rempes, even though we've already
Please.
rebranded. I do have an injury update for us. Obviously, everyone knows we saw that insane, amazing heavyweight bout between him and Ryan Reeves when they played against the San Jose Sharks. I would argue that Rempe won that fight. He looked a lot more controlled than he did in years past, really held his own. And it was honestly, dare I say it, it was the best fight we've seen in the league so far this year.
That's not
It
a
was a
hot
really
take. Not
entertaining
a
fight
hot
to
take.
watch.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. I'm glad you agree. But obviously after that fight, Rempe didn't return. He didn't play against San Jose for the rest of the night. He was ruled out with an upper body injury. And then as the Rangers shifted to continue on their next road trip to Canada, we've learned that Rempe is not on that trip at all. And then some piping hot tea I found just from following Ali Rempe on TikTok, who is Matt Rempe's sister, who played ice hockey for Brown University. She did comment that he has a broken thumb. So the comment was eventually deleted, taken down. So, not sure if we can take that as an official report or just a rumor. I did write a story on it for Breakaway on SI, but we are seeing from one of Rempe's close family members that he does have a broken thumb.
Yeah, I mean, it helps with the fact that it's not a concussion, and
Yes.
hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later because we know what Matt Rempe brings, and he's becoming a better NHLer every game he plays. He's being more care. I don't like using the word careful, but compared to what he was when he could just be throwing his 6'9" frame around, he's more mature. He's handling the puck. I'd argue that the best line this season is Carrick, Edstrom, and Rempe. And so for him to, when Mike Sullivan today said he might be out a longer amount of time, that's a hard one to swallow for a team that really needs to feed off his youth at times. And like we've talked about so many times, Matt Rempe might have been the most improved Ranger last year, not named Will Cooley in
Yeah,
my.
and also just not an update fans are happy to hear, right? There are fans who go to Rangers games to see Matt Rempe play, to see him potentially get in a fight with someone. I've seen so many comments on TikTok since that statement from Sullivan came out where it's like, well, so glad I bought like early November tickets at Madison Square Garden to see Matt Rempe play, and now I'm not going to be able to do that. So, I do want to argue, I do think the Brennan Othman move that was made, I think that was a direct correlation to Rempe's status just because it literally happened within 24 hours of his injury. So I think they kind of had a sense, a feeling of what the diagnosis was and how long he was going to potentially be out. So, I mean, it is Brennan Othman was kind of the biggest news aside from Gabe Perreault in which players got sent down to start at the AHL level. So, I mean, that is good that he's getting kind of a second chance. We know that that move was made because Sullivan just thought he was too inconsistent throughout training camp. So, I know he's been scratched since he's been called back up, but at least that does give him a chance. But I think we're all excited to see Rempe come back. Hopefully, we'll have more on the broken thumb later, but
Yeah, we should have more or good healing to him. He'll be fine. I love the Othman point you just made, and I wouldn't even say second chance. I would just say last chance. I mean, the guy's been up twice before. Once was really short, and you look at what the Rangers have in their farm system, and at that right wing, left wing position, you have Gabe Perreault, you have Alexi Lafreniere, you have Will Cooley, all of who figure to be part of the Rangers' future. And then Othman, it becomes, can this guy be the top six winger that we thought he would be when he scored 100 points in the WHL or whatever league he was in Canada? And he hasn't been able to. And he scored his first NHL goal last year. The guy's always had a shot, literally, like, oh, he could shoot the hockey puck, but he hasn't really had a shot in the NHL because Peter Laviolette would scratch him, because Mike Sullivan would scratch him. And I'm not saying that Sullivan scratching him is the downright worst thing to do, because the one game Othman played in Calgary, I wouldn't say he made them a better team. But I think it's really fair to say if he doesn't prove something by midseason, they're going to trade him. They're already fielding calls against him, and they're just other people that deserve the shot. I mean, you're talking about the last, when we were covering preseason, the last three for the roster, they were going to pick one of them was Noah Laba, Gabe Perreault, and Brendan Othman. You keep Laba, who I think's been good as a bottom sixer. You're going to bring up Perreault. Othman's getting his chance now, and I wouldn't say he has too much time, but he will get back in the lineup before New York trades him for sure.
yeah, I mean, I guess, as we're recording it, we can kind of end off on is that the New York Rangers are going to be playing the Edmonton Oilers. From what I saw on site covering the Seattle Kraken game, I kind of saw the Seattle Kraken pretty much demolish them. So I do think this is another good opportunity for the Rangers to hopefully build upon that Canada road trip momentum that they kind of started off on the right foot with the 2-0 win over Vancouver. So hopefully they can keep that momentum going against the Oilers. But what are your expectations for that game, Jake?
I love how you use the words Canada road trip momentum. I knew you weren't trying to make a play on words, but just the phrase of it, because in 2024, when the Rangers won the President's Trophy, it was that 5-0 Canada road trip that really fueled everything. And the Vancouver win, was it the prettiest? No, of course not. But a win's a win, 2 points is 2 points. And my expectations for this Oilers game, oh my God, if they don't come out with fire, then there's something wrong in that room. Because of the fact that the Edmonton Oilers came into Madison Square Garden for the third game of the season, third home game of the season, rather, and they shut out New York 1-0. And they were the reason New York almost reached a record for the most home goal or most home games without a goal. And so you have a little extra motivation. And I know I said we got to get these out of the way. But like you mentioned too, the Oilers have not been great this season. I'm pretty sure they lost to the Utah Mammoth last night. It was 3-2 when I went to bed at the end of the Rangers game. This team just, like, they got blanked in a game they should have won. That was the game where Mika Zibanejad said to Molly Walker and the other reporters, like, not trying to target him out. He's just like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, we're shooting the puck. They're just not going in. And so tomorrow, I want to see them do this, and I want to see them throw the puck on net.
I want to, in a hockey game, I want to see the puck be shot. Period.
Exactly. Because also you look at even last year when Edmonton came in March when the Rangers were fighting for their playoff lives. The Rangers played fine in the first period. It was 1-1. And then they just folded. And then when Edmonton came in December, they folded. And the year we won the President's Trophy, even Edmonton beat the Rangers at home. The Rangers have performed better at Edmonton in the seasons they do well, and in the seasons they don't do well, and they get blown out in Edmonton. And so tomorrow, the one thing I will say the Rangers have been good at this season, or better at, defense, shutdown, whether that's a product of Vlad Gavrikov or whoever it is. You're facing Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on a team that was supposed to be a Stanley Cup favorite. And so, how are you going to respond, right? It's response for me. It's always been for this team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Sorry.
mean,
I needed to get that rant out.
no, as you should. I think that's a really good point to end things off
Yeah.
on. Jake and I are obviously busy with us both kind of moving up in the sports journalism world, but we're super excited to keep recording podcasts. If you want to keep up with all of my hockey writing, you can just Google Jennifer Streeter, Breakaway on SI, and it'll all come up. But super excited to continue my Rangers coverage over there. Jake, I know you're doing so much great things with the sporting news. Be sure to tell people where they can tune in. But yeah, we're excited to keep recording for you guys.